Good morning. How's everyone? Great. It's still morning, right? It's 11 o'clock. Yes. Well, it is such an honor to be here with you all. Really enjoyed last year when I came. Such a pleasure to be at the wonderful Tuskegee University. Really enjoy hearing kind of those numbers and the economic impact, because that's such a powerful piece of the story that we're telling, the impact that it's making on the state and then across the nation as well. So excited to be here. So I am the Executive Director for Talent Development at Innovate Alabama, and I can get into a little bit more what that means as we move through the presentation. But I think we're gonna start with a video. So thank you. So one thing I'm excited about, that video was created towards the end of 2023. And so you heard the $50 million number. That number today is up to $125 million that we've been able to fuse into entrepreneurial programs across the state. So Innovate Alabama is a public-private partnership specifically focused on driving entrepreneurship, innovation, and technology forward across the state. If you ask who our customer is, it is the entrepreneur, it's the founder. And so we work hard every day to make sure that founders and entrepreneurs have what they need to really be able to succeed and thrive and scale right here in the state, because we want them to grow here in Alabama. We don't want them to think that they have to go to California or New York to be able to grow their businesses. So kind of a little bit of history. The Alabama Innovation Commission was formed by Governor Ivey in 2021. She put this commission of leaders from within the state and outside of the state together to answer the question, what is it going to take to help Alabama advance in those areas of entrepreneurship, innovation, and technology? That commission partnered with Dr. Condoleezza out of Stanford University. She and her team came to Alabama. They did some asset mapping. They looked at our strengths, they looked at our opportunities, and they put together a report that was then handed to the commission. From that information, the commission generated a long list, a very thick book of recommendations to move those initiatives forward that we call the Alabama Innovation Commission Report. If you Google that, it pops right up. It's the first thing that comes up on Google if you Google that. It's a really great read for some bedtime reading, but it's really good stuff. And so one of those recommendations was to stand up an organization like Innovate Alabama to really do this work. So when we say that we are a public-private partnership, our leadership and our board of directors really underscores that. And so we need the private sector because we need the innovation, we need the entrepreneurship there, but then we need to partner with the public sector to move policy forward that may need to change in order to do that. And so an example of that is, there was some policy 2 sessions ago around faculty who do commercialization at universities and what rights do they have to that product once it's commercialized. We needed the public sector to help move that legislation forward. So we've got a great board of both public, private, both sides of the aisle here. So this is our team. Our fearless leader is Cynthia Crutchfield. She's our CEO. And then you see the rest of the team. This is like my favorite slide because those are my people. I love them. All right, so our core pillars, that the work that we do as we are serving founders and making sure that founders have the resources that they need. Talent development, which is the area that I'll lead, and we'll dig deep into that. Access to resources, and lifestyle and recreation. I'm going to touch on access to resources and lifestyle recreation because I want you to understand what we do through the talent in the context of the whole organization, but we'll dig really deep into the talent pillar today, specifically the work that we're doing with HBCUs. So again, so far, since 2021, $125 million in capital allocated, over 5,000 students engaged across the state, over 1,000 jobs created and retained, and we have 168 members of the Innovate Alabama network. I'll tell you more about that program, and I'm proud to say Tuskegee is a member of the network. And so this kind of shows you the disbursement of funding across the state. And so, as you would expect, you see those major hubs, Birmingham, Mobile, Huntsville, and Montgomery, kind of really getting a lot of that funding. But then when you see those smaller dots that are being spread out across the state, that is the work that we really are looking to dig into 2026 and beyond, is really reaching rural places. And so we see we have work to do in the northwest corner of the state, southwest corner of the state. And so we're really working and strategizing around that. So access to resources, I'm gonna hit this real quick. So we currently have 5 programs that we use to get resources to entrepreneurs, whether directly or through the ecosystem building that we do. So we have the State Small Business Credit Initiative, otherwise known as SSBCI. That is a federally funded program. We were able to compete for and win $98 million to infuse into entrepreneurs across the state. This is a direct to founder program. It has 2 sides to it. So there's a lending side and an investment side. We know that not every entrepreneur can walk into a bank and say, I need a $500,000 loan for my business and just get it, right? Like, we know that. And so what we do is we partner with the financial institutions to de-risk loans so that they will be more willing to lend to founders that they may not would have lended to otherwise. And so that's kind of just in a nutshell the lending side. The venture side, we do direct investment into companies in exchange for some equity in their company. We also have a fund of funds program. So that's a direct to founder program. Another direct to founder program that we have is the supplemental grant program. You may hear us refer to that as SBIR or SBIR, STTR. So founders that are able to go and win those federal small business innovation research grants or technology transfer grants can then come to us and receive a supplemental matching grant for up to 50% of what they got from the federal government. And so just to kind of share a little bit of the impact there was a company called Analytical AI. They had won the federal grant. They came to us for the supplemental grant. We invested, I think, about $350,000 into that company. They used that funding to hire a few more FTEs that built capacity for them to go and compete for a $20 million federal contract that they won. And so that's $20 million new dollars from the federal government coming into the state of Alabama off of a $350,000 investment. So that's the impact that we're really working to make. And then we have the tax credit program, which is really about incentivizing private investment into these projects that serve entrepreneurs. And so this is kind of an ecosystem building project. And so an economic development organization can come in, apply for tax credits for a project. We award the tax credits. And then when they go out and get donations for the projects, those donors are able to receive those tax credits and use them against their tax liability for the state. And so it can be companies that are offsetting their tax liability, but it can also be individuals. And so that really kind of catalyzes and incentivizes that private investment. And then we have the Innovate Alabama network that I talked about just a moment ago. Not supposed to have favorites, but this is my favorite program that we do. It is our main grant-making program for the ecosystem that we're working to build to support entrepreneurs. And so within that program, organizations can apply to be members of the network. Once they are members of the network, they receive a one-time kind of small grant that just says, welcome to the network, use this to do good work. But then subsequently to that, they can apply continuously for projects for up to $750,000. And so this program is for higher education institutions, which of course absolutely includes our HBCUs, right? As well as municipalities and nonprofits. And so like I said, Tuskegee is a member of that network. And then we have the Innovate Alabama Capital Access Initiative, which is our newest program. It is another direct to founder program. It is a venture program. And so with that program, we have a venture studio that we are working to create to spin off new companies to then invest in. But then also companies that are not a part of the studio are able to come in and receive investment dollars. So that's kind of a access to resources in a nutshell. If you have questions about those programs, I'm gonna give you all my email address before we leave, and I will be happy to connect you with the team members who lead each of those programs. Okay, so talent development. This is where we're gonna spend the bulk of this presentation. So with talent development, from a broader level, we engage HBCUs, we engage schools that are not HBCUs, we engage at the K through 12 level, we engage at the adult workforce level. And so our goal here is to really cultivate and nourish the available pool of technical talent in the state for the purpose of making sure that as founders are starting companies, they have the talent that they need to be able to scale and grow here. As we have talked to founders across the state, we hear all the time, we know that Alabama has got these 14 HBCUs. We know that there is incredible talent coming out of these HBCUs. We're not sure how to tap into that talent. And so we kind of try to help build those bridges to make sure that those founders have access, not just to HBCU talent, but to all the talent that's available. But founders across the state are specifically interested in HBCU talent. And so when we think about the 3 buckets that we really work in as it pertains to attracting STEM talent, one is STEM exposure, upskilling, and training. And so we do programs at the K-12 level, at the higher ed level, to make sure that this talent, this emerging talent, has the skills and the knowledge that they need to be able to compete in this new innovation workforce that we're building. And then we have entrepreneurial training, because we know that a student who starts a business in the state of Alabama, if they have the proper resources that they need, they will stay here and they'll grow that business. And then we have programs that are solely focused around attraction and retention. So getting the talent that's not here to come, getting the talent that is here to stay. So as these students are graduating from Tuskegee, we want them to stay here. We want to make sure they do. So to kind of get into some of the programs, we have the innovation experience. I would say that this program touches on all 3 of those buckets. This program is specifically for HBCU students. Some of you may have participated in the Innovation Power Hour that happened here at Tuskegee at one point. So this program, it travels all around the state to all 14 of the HBCUs. We do these power hours where we do workshops on entrepreneurship with students and app development. And so students attend that workshop. And my favorite thing about these workshops is, you know, what we put on the outside is free pizza. Okay, come get your pizza, come play some games, come learn some things. And so students show up thinking that they're there for the free pizza. We do a workshop with them where we teach them how to develop a business idea, or we teach them how to develop an app at just a basic level. We give them about 30 minutes to then put something together based on what they just learned, and then they're able to pitch that idea in exchange for a nominal prize. It might be a gift card, it might be a set of Beats headphones or something like that. But what ends up happening is we have students in those innovation power hours who then something begins to spark, where it's like, oh, I'm an innovator. Oh, you mean like I can do this? I can develop apps? I can do this? And it's like, yes, you can. So now come and compete in this next hackathon where you can win $10,000. And so we're seeing students begin to develop those companies. We've had students to come through that program that they're still working on that company that they started the day that they thought they were showing up for free pizza. So it's a pretty cool program. So in addition to entrepreneurial training, we're also doing that STEM engagement exposure and upskilling. And so we're doing cybersecurity training with the students. We're doing pivot tech training. And again, this is a program that is specifically for HBCU students. And so as I'm talking about talent development, I'm gonna share programs with you that we're doing specifically for HBCU students, but then programs that we also do at the general higher ed level that HBCU students have access to and are participating in as well. So that's the innovation experience. So then we have the Fuel Alabama Innovation Internship. So this again is another HBCU specific program. And I forgot to mention that last program, we do that in partnership with the Alabama Collective. And so Innovate Alabama, particularly from a talent standpoint, we don't create programs. We find the people that are doing the work and we say, okay, with more money, what could you do with this? And so we don't want to recreate the wheel. We don't want to duplicate. We want to resource and empower the people that are already doing the work. So Fuel Alabama Innovation Internship, this is in partnership with the Economic Development Partnership of Alabama, EDPA, we love acronyms. And so this program is really attraction and retention focused. And so we've got HBCU students, and we want to expose them to the startup ecosystem. And so we place them in internships, either with startups or with organizations that support startups. So places like Innovation Depot in Birmingham or Innovation Portal in Mobile. And so they get placed in these programs. It's a summer-long internship. It's about 8 weeks or so. They graduate from that internship. And so not only do they get to see job opportunities and get that work experience, but they really get that exposure to the entrepreneurship ecosystem across the state. And so then we have Fuel Alabama. So Fuel Alabama is not specific to HBCUs, but we do have a good number of HBCU students who participate in Fuel Alabama. And so all these programs we make accessible to students across the state with intentionality around making sure that our HBCU students have opportunity and awareness for these programs. So Fuel Alabama is purely a talent retention program. And so we've had over 900 students to engage in this program since the beginning of the program. And this also is in partnership with EDPA. And so students who have internships over the summer across the state are able to register for and participate in this programming. And so this past summer, we partnered with 10 communities across the state, and students who had an internship in those communities actually designed programming for those students specifically, for those interns. And so it was everything from professional development to industry engagement to quality of life, with the goal of really showing the interns, hey, you got this great internship, you know there's career opportunity here, but here's what Alabama has to offer outside of 9 to 5. And so we really want to get them to want to stay here. So that's Fuel Alabama. So then we have the Alabama Cybersecurity Fellowship. This is one of our newest programs that we stood up in partnership with Advantage Consulting and Solutions, which is a cybersecurity firm based in Enterprise, Alabama. We partnered with 3 community colleges, one of which was an HBCC. So Trentham State, Wallace Dothan, and then Enterprise State Community College. So we started with 7 student fellows. This was really a pilot program. The students, so we know that at these schools, the students are in cybersecurity programs. They're receiving training, knowledge, and instruction in cybersecurity. But we also know that there's a gap between what they're getting in the classroom and the entry-level experience they need when they try to get into the workforce. And so the employers are saying, this is an entry-level job and you need 3 years of experience. And we're saying that's not an entry-level job. So how do I get experience without you giving me the experience that your entry-level role requires, right? That sounds familiar. That's something that's a thing across all industries. So what we did is we created a 16-week fellowship. So the students are getting additional training that complements what they're learning in the program, but at the same time, they're being placed in an internship with a local company that is related to cybersecurity. And I do want to stop and note, we are strong believers in paid internships. We do not partner with programs that want students to work for free. Because when we think about the accessibility of internships, unpaid internships are only accessible to a certain demographic. They're not typically accessible to a lot of people, right? So we want to make sure the students are paid. So they get placed in a 16-week paid internship fellowship with these cybersecurity companies, or it might be like one was Dothan Hospital, but it was a cybersecurity role within the hospital. So the students get the work experience, they get the additional training and hands-on application, and they get to see the availability of these roles in industries that aren't necessarily tech or cybersecurity. So what has happened with those 7 student fellows, and we're also challenging and pushing on the private industry to say, do you really need a 4-year degree for this role? Because what was the point of them getting a 2-year cybersecurity focus and then getting their training and their certification, and you're telling them that they need another 2 years of school? So we're like, do they really need a 4-year degree for that? Do they really have to have 3 years experience to do this? And so as we've kind of pushed that envelope, we've been able to now have the students put this experience on their resume. And when they really spell out what it is that they learned in this fellowship, all 7 of these students were snatched up by employers like that. Some with the employers that they did their fellowship with, some outside of those. But they all were able to turn that opportunity into a job experience that has now kept them here in the state of Alabama. So then we have Emerging Innovation Scholars. So this was a program that originated at the University of Alabama. And so the deal we made with them was we will support you for a pilot year. And in the second year, we want to see you expand to 4 additional schools, and at least half of those schools have to be HBCUs. And so in their second year, they expanded to Stillman College, Talladega College, University of North Alabama, and University of South Alabama. And so again, this is another program that we don't market it as it's only for HBCU students, but we work really hard to make sure that this program gets into the HBCUs. And so the great thing about this is they were able to pilot the program the first year and work out the kinks and figure out, lessons learned, what to do, what not to do. Then when it was time to expand, they packaged the program and they then walked the schools through how to institute it at their program. And in the second year, we funded the program for those additional schools. So Stillman and Talladega will both be kicking off their programs this semester. University of North Alabama did theirs last semester. South Alabama did theirs over the summer. And so we've had over 140 participants since the beginning of the program, and really excited to see where that goes. Oh, and I didn't say what the program was. It's an entrepreneurship program. So students spend that school year being resourced, mentored. And when I say mentored, I mean, we brought in like a former Joint Chief of Staff for the U.S. Army to like mentor a team that was working on something that was defense related. And so we really try to find these strong mentors to mentor them through that journey. And then at the end of that process, they're able to pitch for funding for their companies. So then we have Quant Hub, Alabama Data Scholars. This program is done in partnership with Quant Hub, which is a data science firm in Birmingham, Alabama. It is a statewide program. So this program, similar model to the cybersecurity fellowship. So students spend the summer learning these in-depth skills around data science, data analytics, AI, learning, machine learning, and then they are placed in paid internships with companies that relate to that field. And so these students go through an 8-week program, and they graduate from that program. So the first year, we did high school students only. The second year we did, which was really cool because like how many high school juniors get to say like, I did a paid internship at Protective Life, and half of the students that are participating in this program have come from rural spaces, which is very important to us. The second year, we offered it to undergraduate students. And so we had some HBCU students participate in it the second year. And so really great program. We love this model. It's like, let's complement what they're learning in the classroom with additional hands-on training, and then let's put them in an internship so that they can get that work experience that they need. And so the final one that I'll touch on really quickly is lifestyle and recreation, which is really a means that we use to retain talent here. So I mentioned that Dr. Condoleezza Rice and her team came to Alabama. We know Dr. Rice is from Alabama. She brought her team from California. They got off the plane, and we know that people from California and other places have these preconceived notions of the state of Alabama, much of it based on historical accuracy, a lot of it based on what they've heard and not what they've experienced. And so they got off the plane, and they said, this place is beautiful, it's incredible, and we should use that to attract and retain talent to the state of Alabama. And so lifestyle and recreation is the pillar that we really use as a vehicle for talent retention. It is really about outdoor recreation, and so we invest money in the infrastructure for some of our outdoor spaces, but also into experiential things for tech founders and tech talent to get outdoors and experience the outside. And y'all know I'm not an outdoors girl, not naturally, but I have actually started hiking and stuff because of my proximity to this program. So, and it's great. It's great for my mental health. I love it. So we do that. We market it. We have a marketing campaign called Seek Alabama. That campaign has launched nationally. We've gone to New York. We're actually going back to New York in 2 weeks for Fast Company's Innovation Festival, where we will be surrounded by tech founders just telling them about the beauty and the quality of life that's available in the state. We've gone to Austin, Texas, and so, we've really done a regional campaign as well as a national campaign. And so we invest in infrastructure, we invest in experiences. We also invest in the entrepreneurs who support the outdoor recreation industry. And so when you think about the activities that we're supporting, it's things like hiking, biking, climbing, kayaking, all those things that tech founders love to do because they really like to play hard, but when they're done for the day, they like to work hard, and when they're done for the day, they want to play hard as well. So I've got one more video here.
Have you ever found a perfect trail? Or chemistry?
Who is our customer? It's founders, it's entrepreneurs. How can you engage with us? If you know founders that need resources, please connect them with us. If you are working in economic development, which I assume that many of the people at an economic development summit are, and you have programs, you have ideas for programs where you're like, man, the students in my area, we should be engaging them in this way. Reach out and let's talk about it and let's collaborate and let's see how we can support that program, both as a thought partner, but also financially. If you have ideas, if you have thoughts and strategies that you want to work on together, would love to do that with you. And I'll just end by saying the programs that I outlined under talent development, those really are examples of programs that we supported, but they're kind of the tip of the iceberg. And so the sky is the limit. If you can dream it up, and if it aligns with our mission and the work that we do, we would love to support it. So the easiest way to learn about our programs, innovatealabama.org/programs. You can also connect with us. There's an email address here, info@innovatealabama.org. I know that sounds very vague and sketchy, but I promise you somebody sits on that email and they triage it and they get it to the right person. And then I'm gonna give you my email. It is Shannon.Allen, ALLEN, @innovatealabama.org, and it's all spelled out. Shannon is SHANNON. So I will be happy to take any questions if you guys have them.
I don't need this. I actually have a few questions, and then we will give it to the audience. Thank you first for that presentation. It was very informative. So I know that you all are focused on STEM right now. But here at Tuskegee University, we are very integrative and interdisciplinary. So I'm wondering, how are you planning to capture humanities? We also know that humanities helps our students to think creatively and also critically.
So I will say we've had conversation about whether or not to expand STEM to STEAM. That is something that we are noodling with, thinking through. The biggest question that we're trying to answer is when we think about arts and entertainment and humanities and the type of projects we would want to support, the question we're asking is, do those projects fit within STEM? Because I will say buying band instruments for high school students doesn't align with our mission right now, with the mission that the Alabama Innovation Commission gave us. But supporting a music technology program, oh yeah. Supporting an art technology program where they're integrating technology into how they do art, absolutely. And so with humanities, there's a lot of work that's being done in that field that still aligns to, technology, innovation. Sound engineering literally has the E from STEM in the title. And so that's how we're thinking about humanities right now.
Thank you for that. I think that's very powerful. We also do work with Planet Forward, which is a way for students to speak about climate change in a digital format, so they're able to publish videos. So thank you for that. Another question that I had pertains to the types of projects. So for anyone in the audience that's thinking about applying, can you give us some examples of the projects that you all have actually funded from entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. So since we're at a university, I'll start with some of our higher education partners. So with Drake State, we funded a small business incubator with them. I will say in the entrepreneurship track, we tend to be a little bit more industry agnostic. So we've supported incubators and accelerators that aren't, necessarily all about tech companies, right? We really are just trying to spur entrepreneurship. And so that's one that we've done. We've supported an entrepreneurship center. It's brand new that's going up at Alabama A&M University. We've supported projects that are all about kind of building up the infrastructure for some of our outdoor rec spaces like Coldwater Creek. We've supported projects that further STEM education for K through 12 students. I think I gave an example of one of those. And so as long as the project aligns with our three pillars, so access to resources, which when we say that, we mean capital, mentorship, and resources for founders, or talent development, which is STEM talent, but then think about how I define STEM as it relates to humanities. And then outdoor recreation. If it aligns to one of those three pillars, then it's eligible to be funded. Like I said, that network program is our main grant-making program for those types of projects. It is incredibly competitive. So we're about to open our fourth round. It's actually going to be open in the next couple weeks for that program. And over the 4 rounds, the dollar amount on the request has increased while our available funding has not. So it gets more and more competitive every time. We have had to turn away some incredible projects only because we didn't have the funding to fund them, but it's definitely worth applying to, even though it's very competitive.
And I promise this is my last question, I promise. So I love the map that you had that showed the different areas. It showed that you primarily worked in the major cities, but I did see some scattered dots in the rural areas. And since we are in a rural area, I'm wondering if you can speak to the different projects or just initiatives that you're doing in those rural areas.
So the main program that we have used to fund in rural programs, again, is the network program. And so thinking about rural, and I'm like, I should have had examples of this just off the top of my head, but I'm trying to think through. We've done some K through 12 STEM education in rural. A lot of our outdoor rec stuff has been in rural because our most beautiful places in Alabama are in rural spaces. We've done an incubator in Decatur, Alabama, which I know is getting less and less rural feeling, but it is still technically a rural space. So as an incubator there. For us, so I want to say too, when we think about rural versus urban, what might be innovative in a rural space, an urban space might look at that and say, we did that 10 years ago. And so we don't make rural organizations compete against urban organizations for funding. And I'm using that word urban, not in the context that it's typically used, but y'all know what I mean when I say that. So we're not going to ask Tuskegee to compete against Birmingham for a grant, right? Because that's not fair. So for a lot of our rural spaces, it's them saying, hey, we need to turn this storefront into a place that our business owners can just come and ideate, or people who want to be business owners. And we're like, yeah, that's innovative. That's innovative in your space. And so that's really the kind of work that we support in rural spaces.
I would like to open the questions up to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience that has a question for our presenter? And if someone could take them the mic. Raise your hand high. I can't see it from.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was an amazing presentation. You guys do a lot of work. How big is your staff?
So we have a staff of 10. When I started at the end of 2023, I was employee number 3. So since then, we have grown from 3 to 10.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of work. So
Yes.
my question is, I heard, I'm gonna follow up on Dr. Shaver's question about rural areas. My antennas went up when you said that, because we are in a rural area and the College of Agriculture, which is the dominant demand in terms of students is sponsoring this event. I wanted to know whether you look at farming and farmers as entrepreneurs and businesses as well, because they are certainly STEM, right? Science, technology,
Yes.
engineering, and math is used in agriculture and farming. How are the resources that you have available, both your grants and loans and your equity stuff, are those available to farmers? Because Dr. Shavers and I are right now co-investigators on research that's looking at the current state of Black farmers in the United States. And one of the issues that continues to come up is this issue of access to credit
Yes.
and funding.
Yeah.
Continues to be an issue throughout not only the Black Belt region, 15 former slave states, but also throughout the country. How are you really embracing farmers and ranchers in terms of your focus on rural areas?
Absolutely. So I have a couple of different answers to that. So one, that state small business credit initiative program that I talked about that had the loan side and the investment side. The loan side of that program is probably the most industry agnostic program that we have. We have funded restaurants, so it doesn't have to be a tech company. So rural or farmers that are looking for loans, that is a great place to come for that program. It really varies. It varies. There's no set like from here to here. And I can't remember, our program director for that program could tell you what's the largest one we've done and what's the smallest one we've done. I don't know to that level of detail. Happy to connect you with him. So we have that. Another aspect is the state of Alabama, the Department of Commerce released a plan called the Catalyst Plan. It's the first time in 10 years that we've had a comprehensive economic development plan for the entire state. And one of the industries that is highlighted in this plan, and is one that we've taken on as we're gonna own that, is ag tech. And so technology and innovation that's happening in agriculture, we want to be active supporters of that. And then my third answer to that question, I'm really excited to announce I completely forgot about this program because it's so new it hasn't made it in the slide deck. And it's my program, the Talent Development Pilot Grant Program. And so this program is for for-profit organizations who are innovating around talent development. And we just finished up around, is this being live streamed or recorded or anywhere? Okay. I won't say the organization because they don't even know this yet. They have received a grant that is all about upskilling K through 12 students and adults in agricultural technology, to spur on entrepreneurship in ag tech. And so
Can you say the size of the grant?
it is, I think, about $305,000. So
When's the next application cycle?
So I think I'm gonna open it up again in March, because this time, because it opened in, I think, June, I wanna make sure we leave space for the school year starting. So we're gonna try to maybe open it in the spring of 2026. So yeah, so to answer your question, yes, we support farmers.
You only award one grant or multiple grants?
So this is to give you a glimpse of how competitive our grant programs are. I had $1,050,000 to disperse. I received applications totaling about $24 million. And so out of that, I was able, and the max on the grants is $350,000 for a 1-year pilot. So I was able to award 5 projects out of that. So
You're gonna get some applications.
I love it. I love it. And for that program, the rural focus was key for that program. We want to engage rural talent development.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Tate, curator for the Legacy Museum on campus. My question is around downtown Tuskegee and the idea, I just attended the Alabama Main Street
Mm-hmm.
initiative. So do any of your funds help with redeveloping downtown?
So we have multiple Main Street members of the network, because I know Main Street is a national organization that then comes into different communities. I don't know if Tuskegee Main Street is one of them, but we have multiple ones. But Tuskegee Main Street can be one if they apply, for sure.
We're not designated for an interest group, not designated a Main Street.
Got you. Okay.
Okay, my name is Dr. Lula Bridges, and I work with clients who have addiction issues. And just listening to your presentation, I honestly can see how a lot of my clients who have been out of the mainstream because of whatever reason could benefit from learning tech.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are brilliant and just get bored and, you know, and end up with some form of addiction. Is that possible that we can pull together maybe programs, work with programs like that?
Yes. So if you wanted to launch a program that is focused on teaching recovering addicts tech and engineering skills,
Yes.
that so aligns with the work that we do, for sure. Yes. I will say that network grant program, so the initial interest period, which is for organizations that were not already in the network, just ended. So it'll be next year before that opens. And then the project period for organizations that are already in the network to be able to apply is getting ready to open in the next couple of weeks.
Well, that was our last question for the morning. We want to thank you, Shannon, for your wonderful presentation. And I'm going to pass it back to you, Dr. Sanudu.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.